As long as I can remember, I have been fascinated by the world we live in. It drove my choice of education, career, photography, and ultimately the place I wanted to live. So, when I was offered this amazing opportunity by Anne-Marie and Matt to show my work at the Twin Cinemas, I was both really excited and intimidated, as it's the first time I've done anything like this. These are two emotions that really have had an uneasy relationship ever since then. I was excited because it gave me the chance to tell my story in a very different way about something that has been a voyage of wonder and that has evolved into a voyage of discovery. Wonder because of the amazement I feel at the sheer beauty of our night sky. I say our because it is the sky that we live under that affords us these majestic views. There is nowhere else I go where I can capture photographs like these. For me, it is part of the identity of the Coromandel that I connect with. It was this fascination that led to questions of a more fundamental and even existential nature. What was I actually photographing? How did the stars come to be? How old are they? How far away are they? And ultimately, where do we fit in? Like many things in nature, our night skies engage our aesthetic souls, as well as our fundamental curiosity in studying how we came to be. This is something that has captivated us as a species for as long as we know. Our collective history, faith and science, and the very notion of our existence is intertwined with our understanding of the cosmos. This understanding of our universe continues to evolve rapidly. In true scientific method, hypotheses are formed and tested. Some survive, some fail, and some are retained in part to add to our growing understanding. I remember an interview with one of the Nobel Prize winners from 2011 who discovered that the universe is still expanding and framed the concept of dark energy. He said that learning to live with uncertainty and knowing you don't know everything is an essential quality. It was something he felt might serve us all well in other areas of life. But this isn't a lecture. So if you do find yourself with a different view to some of the things I cover here, then please do take the time to do your own research. It really is a fascinating area. Ultimately, there is a sense of personal perspective. I recall a lecture from Brian Cox when he said that our minds cannot conceive of our own existence. I can really relate to this. The numbers, distances and timescales, which I will talk about later on, really are beyond comprehension. We can, however, marvel at the universe around us, which leads me perfectly into the journey I want to share with you tonight. In the next 40 minutes or so, I will be sharing some of my favourite images of our night sky, shot in the Coromandel, Great Barrier Island, Tiritiri Matangi, and a couple of other spots in New Zealand. My images are all taken with a camera without the use of a telescope. They are mainly single images, not composites, apart from the panoramas and two others which were part of a commission. We will start with our nearest neighbour, the Moon, then reach out towards the Milky Way and look at what we can see there, then on to the deeper reaches of space to look at some of our nearest neighbours. Hopefully this will help give you a better understanding of what you can see when you are looking at the night sky. As we journey through the cosmos, I will also share some information about what we are looking at. This is not meant to be exhaustive, but these are things that have interested me and caught my attention. Like me, I hope that you will experience a sense of wonder, curiosity, and amazement at the incredible universe we evolved from and exist in. A couple of thoughts about photographing the night skies. Firstly, we are blessed with incredibly dark skies in the Coromandel because of a lack of light pollution and industry. The Dark Sky Initiative in Apito and Kurtunu is a really worthwhile project aiming to preserve this. We also get an unparalleled view of the Milky Way, far better than the Northern Hemisphere, which we see in our winter when the air is colder and clearer because of less moisture. The camera is an amazing device for peeling back the layers of what we can see in the night sky. Firstly, it sees more detail. It is estimated under ideal conditions and with perfect eyesight that we can see maybe up to magnitude 6, which equates to about 9,000 stars, 4,500 per hemisphere. I have photographed stars to the 13th magnitude, which equates to over 5 million stars. Compared to the naked eye, it is exponentially higher. Colour is another important aspect. Most of the things we see at night with our naked eye or through binoculars or a telescope appear monochrome. This is because there is insufficient light for the human eye to resolve colour. With a camera you can leave the shutter open longer, and cameras have a greater dynamic range so they can perceive colours the eye cannot. The colours are actually there, it is just that the eye cannot detect them. One thing you will see with the Milky Way is how the colours change between images, which is primarily down to changing atmospheric conditions. Sometimes the Milky Way can be very bright and very vibrant, at other times less so. It is just how the images turn out. With my images, the colours you see are the ones the camera has recorded. They are not simulated. For those of you who are inspired to look to the skies, don't worry if you don't have a camera or telescope, you can still see a lot. With a pair of birding binoculars, for example, you can see the 4 Galilean moons which Galileo recorded in the 17th century with the telescope he built. A big thing is to give your eyes time to adjust to the dark. This takes at least half an hour, but it is amazing how many more stars you can see when your eyes are fully adjusted. I find it impossible to get my head around the dimensions of the universe, reminding me of Brian Cox's statement that we cannot conceive of our own existence. I do find it useful though when looking at the sky to think of context, particularly in terms of distance and time. That is, how far away and how old are things? This is where the numbers and concepts do become genuinely mind-blowing. They are also areas of ongoing active research, driven in a large part by rapidly improving sensing technologies. If you are interested, I would urge you to read about it. It is fascinating. In terms of age, it is generally believed that the universe is about 13.8 billion years old. Discoveries of distant galaxies by the James Webb Space Telescope, launched in 2021, have challenged this view because they appear even older. There are theories now that the universe may be nearly twice as old at 26.7 billion years. Closer to home, our solar system and Earth are about 4.6 billion years old, and our moon formed approximately 60 million years after that. Single-cell life appeared on Earth about 4 billion years ago, and the rapid diversification of life, known as the Cambrian explosion, happened about 535 million years ago. Our ancestors have been around for about 2 million years or so, and we, Homo sapiens, ironically known as wise man in Latin, have been around for about 750,000 years. Not that long. When we think about distance, it gets even more interesting. Firstly, the basic unit of measure is a light year, or how far light can travel in 1 year. Light travels at about 300,000 kilometers per second and covers 9 trillion kilometers in a year. The most distant, and therefore oldest, object we have recorded is a galaxy seen through the James Webb Space Telescope. It is about 13.4 billion light years away, or at least 13.4 billion years old, as the light has taken that long to get here. However, because the universe is expanding, which was confirmed in 2011, and that expansion is accelerating, it is thought that the proper distance, or the distance the light has actually travelled, is nearer to 34 billion light years. So how big is the universe? If we think about the observable universe, that is the size of the universe that we could potentially detect because of how far light could have travelled, the figure is about 93 billion light years across. The total size of the universe, however, that is the stuff that we cannot see as well as the stuff that we can see, is a topic of much debate and may well be considered infinite. The accelerating expansion of the universe means we may never be able to see some regions of space. Like many photographers, I am drawn to take pictures of the moon. It is the brightest object in the sky. It is the subject of ancient folklore and mythology, and it is Earth's nearest neighbour, yet so different to us. Like no other object in the sky, its shapes and textures draw you in, stirring the imagination with clues to its primordial formation, and perhaps to our own celestial evolution. The patterns of its phases and ellipses fascinate us, and have long been held up as omens, both good and bad. Who would not want to photograph it? It was in fact one of the first objects in the night sky that I photographed, with noted disappointment. It is surprisingly bright, moves surprisingly quickly, and the quality of its light affected in surprising ways by our atmosphere. All of these are challenges that need to be overcome. It is a quarter of the size of the Earth and 385,000 kilometres away. The moon has virtually no atmosphere and is not capable of supporting life. But after 30 years of study following the Apollo missions, it was confirmed in 2020 that there is frozen water in both sunlit and permanently shadowed areas. It is, however, still 100 times drier than the Sahara Desert. There are several theories about the formation of the moon, but the common view is that not long, maybe 60 million years or so, after the formation of the solar system, 4.5 billion years ago, a single object the size of Mars, or maybe a series of objects, crashed into the young Earth and flung enough molten and vaporized debris into space to create the moon. Interestingly, given the vast timescales typically involved in celestial processes, it is believed the moon was created in just a few hours. The surface of the moon is dominated by meteor impacts, the moon being too small and not hot enough to develop plate tectonics. This is the process that has shaped the surface of the Earth. This is where convection in the magma layer underneath the Earth's crust causes our continents to move and also creates volcanic activity. It is the reason New Zealand split from Gondwana land 85 million years ago, which set it on a unique evolutionary path. The moon does actually have tectonic processes, but it is believed these are due to ongoing cooling and as a result of the Earth's tidal forces. The dominant features of the moon, which are clearly visible from the Earth, are the dark and light areas. These were named in the 17th century, the dark areas being called mare, the Latin for sea, as they look like seas. The collective name for the brighter highland areas is terra, the Latin for earth. The maria, plural, are in fact basaltic and are the result of meteor impact and volcanic activity, and are younger than the whiter highland areas. It is these features that have led people to see different shapes or forms in the moon over thousands of years. Notably, the man in the moon, recognised in European culture, and the rabbit in the moon, recognised in Asian and Aztec cultures amongst others. The lack of atmosphere on the moon means that meteors don't burn up, and there is no erosion due to weather, plus the fact that there are no plate tectonic processes, meaning that these meteor impacts are more prominent and visible for much longer than on the Earth. You can see clearly in this image of the moon where Tycho, a relatively young crater at 108 million years old, in the top right of the image, shows the impact crater and the blast radii from the ejected debris across a large area of the moon. It may come as a surprise that there have been approximately 140 missions to the moon. 12 men have walked on the moon between 1969 and 1972 as part of the Apollo program, and that there are over 40 more missions currently planned. It is getting busy up there. It was equally surprising to me that something as powerful in our culture as the moon landings took place over only 3.5 years. A river of light arcing across our night sky, its colours and textures drifting in and out of view as our eyes struggle with the darkness. Elusive patterns of stars, gas and dust that beg to be photographed to reveal their secrets. This was, and still is, the source of my inspiration in astrophotography, where the camera's ability to reveal detail and colour beyond the human eye really shines. Each time it is different. Ambient light, dust, cold, moisture, time of year, all have a bearing on how an image comes out. My own journey with the camera and the night sky took two directions. Firstly, looking broader, it fascinated me to look for different locations to photograph the Milky Way from, darker skies, different angles, different compositions and times of year. Not looking for the perfect shot, as that doesn't exist, but exploring and engaging the subject. Secondly, and more recently, looking deeper. In the darkest skies, when its dust and gas formations are revealed, the Milky Way looks like a cloud, something ephemeral and transitory, which, certainly within our lifetimes, is in fact static. Its apparent movement, the result of the Earth's rotation. When you study it, you see the same features each time, so it was a natural step to understand more about these and to want to capture images of them. Zooming in only gets you so far, as the limits of light and the Earth's rotation mean you need to get additional gear to get close-up shots. This is a journey I am still on. We get the best view of the Milky Way in the southern hemisphere from April to October, particularly of the central area or galactic core. And with our dark skies here, it is possible to see the dust and gas clouds with the naked eye. This is where I started my journey with astrophotography, with the sheer majesty of this view. I then became interested in what I was actually looking at. It is in fact our own galaxy, what's known as a barred spiral galaxy. That is, it has a long centre with spiral arms rotating out from there. It is just one of billions of galaxies in the universe. The Milky Way is about 90,000 light years wide and about 1,000 light years thick. It is estimated there are between 100 to 400 billion stars and at least that many planets in our galaxy. In this section, we will be looking at a series of close-up shots of the centre of the Milky Way to spot some of the key features and talk a little about what they are. Many of these are visible to the naked eye and can help you get oriented when you are working your way around what's up there. In this wide shot, we see the most visible features in the centre. There is a bright area above and a darker V-shaped feature below, separated by a dark band. This is actually the galactic core, and you are looking directly towards the centre of our galaxy. We will look at these in more detail in the following images. In this image, taken in Ahiwa in May 2023, we can clearly see the bright area in the centre, which is the large Sagittarius star cloud. On the other side of the Milky Way, the V shape can now be seen as a more definite shape, which is called the Great Dark Horse Nebula, named because it looks like a dark horse, although one apparently drawn by a small child. The back legs of the horse are a feature known as the Pipe Nebula. These are both dark or absorption nebula that are in fact interstellar clouds that block visible light. The dark channel running down the centre is the Great Rift, or sometimes called the Dark River, which is similar to the dark nebulas. It is a band of interstellar cosmic dust that obscures our view of the centre of the Milky Way. Other features we can see, which we will cover in more detail later, are the red giant Antares at the heart of Scorpio, connected by a large dust cloud to the Milky Way, the Norma star cloud at the bottom of the image, and the small Sagittarius star cloud towards the top. This is the first of two images taken at Kuatunu in August 2023 that reveal even more detail in the heart of the Milky Way. The large Sagittarius star cloud is even clearer here, and it is in fact the brightest part of the Milky Way and the innermost galactic structure that can be seen with the naked eye. At the heart of the Milky Way, obscured by interstellar dust, is a supermassive black hole of about 4 million solar masses, which is called Sagittarius A and is approximately 26,000 light years away. The rotational or barycenter of the Milky Way is positioned between these two noted features, both of which are very visible to the naked eye. We can see in this image that the Great Rift is certainly darker than surrounding areas, but is also certainly not devoid of stars. The small Sagittarius star cloud is a bright area of numerous stars which is visible in the Great Rift. The name star cloud is actually misleading, as it is believed we are not looking at a distinct deep sky object such as a star cluster or a nebula. Instead, we are peering through a gap in the cosmic dust clouds into the inner depths of the Milky Way. It is approximately 10,000 light years away and about 600 light years wide. Other notable features include Ptolemy's cluster, a bright area towards the left, first recorded by Ptolemy in Alexandria in 130 AD as the nebula following the sting of Scorpius. It is nearly 1,000 light years away and has a radius of 25 light years. Some other features we can see are the Eagle and Omega Nebula. The Eagle Nebula is home to several regions of active star formation. These include the famous Pillars of Creation in the central part of the nebula, which was named after the stunning Hubble photograph taken in 1995. It is one of the most memorable images taken by the Hubble telescope. Although only a small part of the overall nebula, the largest pillar is approximately 4 light years high, which is approximately twice the size of our solar system. Nearer the centre of the image, we can see the Lagoon and Trifid nebulae, which we'll look in more detail a little later on. We can see a number of brighter objects above the Milky Way, which include Delta Sagittarius, an orange giant star, and the Sagittarius cluster, which are both in the constellation of Sagittarius. To the bottom left of the image are two bright stars, Shaula and Lasath, which are in the stinger of Scorpio. You can see here how the stinger of Scorpio and the bow of Sagittarius overlap with these stars. As we zoom in even closer in this image, just shot from our deck early this year, we start to see a lot more stars and detail in the gas and dust clouds, and particularly in the two Sagittarius star clouds. You can see now that the Great Rift is certainly not empty. Near the centre of the image, the Lagoon Nebula can be seen within the Great Rift. It lies about 5,000 light years away. It was discovered in 1654 by the noted Italian astronomer Giovanni Battista Hodierne. It is a bright emission nebula in the constellation of Sagittarius and is an active stellar nursery, an area of dust and gas in space where stars are formed. It appears pink in photographs but looks grey when viewed through binoculars or a telescope, human vision having poor colour sensitivity at low light levels. You can see in this image the dark band in the nebula, which gave it its name because the darkness looks like a lagoon surrounding an island of light. To the right we can see the smaller Trifid Nebula. You can see the three dark wing-like bands which gave the nebula its name. That is Trifid, meaning three lobes. It is a former star-forming nebula which has apparently stopped because the intense radiation has blown away the gas and dust from which new stars are made. The Coalsack Nebula, or Southern Coalsack, is a dark nebula, a cloud of dust and gas, which is visible to the naked eye as a dark patch obscuring part of the Milky Way. It is 600 light-years away and 30 to 35 light-years across. In several Aboriginal cultures, it is seen to form the head of the emu, with the constellation Crux, or the Southern Cross, forming the crown. Because of its brilliance and essential role in navigation, locating the southern celestial pole, Crux has long been a feature of great cultural significance in Pacific and European cultures. It features on the flags of Australia, Brazil, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea and Samoa. You can see Crux to the right of the image, with the bright white star A Crux, which is in fact a multiple star system. The orange star above it is Gacrux, a red giant. It is the central axis pointing down between these two stars that forms one of the leading lines to the southern celestial pole. To the left of this, on the neck of the emu, which is part of the Great Rift, you can see the two pointer stars, Alpha Centauri and Hadar, or Beta Centauri. Alpha Centauri, the brightest star, is actually part of a triple star system and is 4.3 light-years away, and used to be thought of as the closest star to Earth. It is now believed that it's Proxima Centauri, which is part of the same system and was discovered in 1915. It is a red dwarf, 4.2 light-years away, and invisible to the naked eye. You can find the southern celestial pole by drawing an imaginary line at 90 degrees to these stars and connecting it to another imaginary line drawn from the central axis of Crux. We have to do this as, unlike the northern hemisphere, there is no southern celestial pole star. In this image, which was actually the first recognisable shot of the Milky Way I ever took, which was from Kafiro Drive in Kuatunu, sadly the tree is gone now, we can see how we can use Crux and the pointer stars to lead us to the southern celestial pole. In the next shot, we can now see how the Earth's rotation creates star trails which orbit around that pole. Antares is the bright orange star in the centre of the image, with three bright stars above it, which are the claws of Scorpio. These are the stars of Akrab, Shubba and Fang. The Milky Way and part of the Great Rift can be seen at the bottom of the image. You can see a multitude of stars and the dust and debris fields that lead to the Rho Ophiuchi cloud complex and nebula next to Antares. It is small, but you can also see the Crab globular cluster above Antares. The name Antares comes from Greek, meaning rival to Mars because of its red colour. It is often known as the heart of the scorpion from the Babylonian, denoting the breast or heart of the scorpion goddess Ishara. The constellation of Orion is named after the hunter in Greek mythology and is one of the most obvious and recognisable constellations in the sky. It is positioned between Taurus and Canis Major, which contains Sirius, the brightest star in the sky. The Pleiades or Matariki can be seen at the far left of the picture. The nebula is the nearest star-forming region to Earth, located approximately 1,350 light-years away, and is about 2 million years old according to NASA. Observations of the nebula have revealed approximately 700 stars in various stages of formation. Like many visible and striking objects, the nebula has been known to many different cultures throughout human history. The Mayans believed it to be the cosmic fire of creation, which is apt given that it is the birthplace of the stars. In this image, we can see the 3 stars in the belt of Orion near the centre, and pointing at an angle upwards to the right, a smaller line of 3 stars. This is Orion's sword, also known as the Hunter's sword, the middle of which is in fact not a star, but the Orion Nebula. 2 of the 10 brightest stars in the sky are located in Orion. These are Rigel and Betelgeuse. The orange star near the bottom is Betelgeuse. Directly above it at the top of the picture is Rigel. As we get even closer in this image, you can see the 2 stars in the belt of Orion at the bottom, Alnitak and Alnilam, and above them the Orion Nebula in the centre of the sword. You can see the faint but visible Flame Nebula in the bottom right next to Alnitak. It is an emission nebula formed of ionized gases. This close-up of the Orion Nebula shows the fabulous range of colours and textures from the clouds of gas and dust, stars and other nebula within it. These are colours as recorded by the camera and not enhanced, and would not be visible to the naked eye. You can also see the Running Man Nebula or Mermaid's Purse a little way below, and above it the bright spot is the lost jewel of Orion, a young star cluster. The Small and Large Magellanic Clouds are 2 dwarf galaxies orbiting the Milky Way. They are 200,000 and 160,000 light years away respectively. They, along with Andromeda, are part of a local group of galaxies all located within roughly 5 million light years of space around us. Both the Large and Small Magellanic Clouds have been easily visible in the southern hemisphere well back into prehistory. The Large Magellanic Cloud is scattered with star-forming nebula. The spectacular Tarantula Nebula, also known as the True Lover's Knot, is the largest and brightest stellar nursery in our cosmic neighbourhood, and is clearly visible close to the Large Magellanic Cloud. It also contains the closest supernova observed since the invention of the telescope. Its vibrant green colour is how the shots were captured in camera. Like other images, they would be grey to our eyes, human vision having poor colour sensitivity at low light. The Small Magellanic Cloud is one of our galaxy's closest neighbours and has been a regular presence in Australian Aboriginal stories and helped early Polynesian cultures navigate the seas. Like the Large Magellanic Cloud, many star clusters can be seen in the galaxy, with several prominent clusters in close proximity. Tucanae 47 can be seen close to the Small Magellanic Cloud. It is the second brightest globular cluster in the sky and is one of the most massive clusters in the galaxy, containing millions of stars. Andromeda is the largest galaxy in the local group, at a diameter of 152,000 light years. At 2.5 million light years away, It is generally considered to be the furthest object that we can see with the naked eye. Theoretically, Triangulum, the third largest member of the local group, at 2.7 million light years away, is observable, but this is debatable. Like the Milky Way, Andromeda is a barred spiral galaxy. In this image we are looking at the edge of the galaxy, but at an angle, so we can see the bright centre as well as elements of the spiral structure that surrounds it. We can also see a shadow of M110, a dwarf galaxy just below Andromeda, and M32, an elliptical galaxy just above it. Our two galaxies are closing at a speed of about 113 kilometers per second. With this in mind, our merger will occur 5 billion years from now. If we are still here, it is likely this would disrupt our orbit around the Sun and mark our demise. And to give you some idea of how long some celestial processes take, this 5 billion year journey has already started. Here are a selection of images from NASA's library shot from a variety of sources that cover some of the things I've talked about this evening. Hopefully I've been able to set some context for where they sit in the night sky, which will help you when you're on your own journey. At the start, I talked about wanting to share my sense of wonder at what I see in the stars. I hope that I've been able to do that, at least in some part. I will end with two images. This is the first picture of the Milky Way that I ever took, which I captured from Kafiro Drive in Kuatunu. I still remember the feeling of amazement that I could capture a picture like this with my camera. In this image, which is probably my favourite one, of the bioluminescence in Port Fitzroy, is the parallel between the microcosm of simple life and the macrocosm of the universe. Taking photographs of the night skies has opened a door for me, one that will never close. There is always something else to photograph, some new thing to discover, some new piece of the puzzle. Not the least because the things we see in the night sky are taking us all on a journey of discovery into the very essence of our existence and how we came to be. On that note, I will leave you with a thought. It is believed that just after the Big Bang, the universe was primarily made of hydrogen with a few complex elements such as lithium and helium. Through 14 billion years of stellar evolution, the birth, fusion and death of stars and the formation of planets, everything we see, everything we touch, and everything that we are has come from that primordial matter.